I spent 10 years fighting for women's rights in family court. I testified as an expert witness. I helped write legislation. I genuinely believed the system protected victims and held abusers accountable. Then I watched that same system destroy my brother's life in 18 months. My name is Rebecca, and I'm a family law attorney who specialized in defending women in custody battles. I thought I knew everything about divorce court. I thought the system was fair, maybe even biased toward men who could afford better lawyers. I was catastrophically wrong. This is the story of how watching my brother lose everything, his kids, his house, his savings, his reputation, and nearly his life, shattered everything I believed about gender, justice, and why good men are terrified of marriage. My brother Michael was the golden child. For years older than me, he was the guy everyone loved, reliable, kind, the person you'd call at 2 a.m. when your car broke down. He'd be there within 30 minutes, no questions asked. He met Jennifer in grad school. She was pursuing her MBA while he finished his engineering degree. They seemed perfect together, both ambitious, both driven. I was maid of honor at their wedding. I gave a toast about finding your equal partner, about modern marriage between two strong individuals. I meant every word. I thought they'd make it. They had 2 kids, Emma and Tyler. Michael was the kind of dad I'd only read about in parenting books. He did midnight feedings, changed every diaper, took paternity leave when his firm said it would hurt his career trajectory. He didn't care. His kids came first. Jennifer went back to work 6 months after each birth. Michael's schedule was more flexible, so he did morning drop-offs, picked up sick kids from daycare, handled most of the homework routine. Jennifer traveled frequently for her consulting job. Michael turned down promotions that would require relocation or extended hours. From the outside, they looked happy. Christmas cards showed a beautiful family. But I started noticing things during holiday dinners, the way Jennifer rolled her eyes when Michael talked, how she'd correct him in front of everyone, the small cuts that drew blood. Michael forgot to pay the electric bill again, she'd announced to the whole table. He hadn't forgotten, she'd taken over finances and hadn't told him. Michael can't even dress the kids properly, she'd laugh. The kids looked fine to me. Little humiliations, constantly. I told myself it was just couple dynamics, the way all marriages had friction. I told myself Michael was a grown man who could handle it. I had no idea what was coming. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Michael's voice was completely flat, like he'd been drugged. Jennifer filed for divorce. She's taking the kids. There's a restraining order. I can't go home. I actually laughed. What? That's insane. On what grounds? She says I'm emotionally abusive. That she fears for her safety and the kids' safety. The judge granted a temporary restraining order. I have 20 minutes to get my things from the house with a police escort. The bottom fell out of my stomach. Michael, what did you do? The silence on the other end of the line lasted forever. Nothing, Beck. I swear to God, nothing. We had an argument about her traveling so much. I said the kids missed her. She started screaming. I left and went to a hotel. The next morning, there were cops at my office with papers. I should have believed him immediately. But my training kicked in. In family law, we operated on a simple principle: believe women. When a woman says she's afraid, she's afraid. Evidence could come later. Okay, I said carefully. Just comply with everything. We'll sort this out. The truth always comes out. I actually believed that. I believed the system I'd spent a decade defending would protect my innocent brother. I was about to learn how wrong I was. Michael hired David Cooperman, a divorced dad who'd gone through hell in his own custody battle, and became a men's rights attorney. I was skeptical immediately. Men's rights attorneys were the enemy in my world, guys who defended abusers and helped deadbeat dads avoid responsibility. Our first meeting was in David's modest office. No fancy art, no leather furniture. Just wall-to-wall case files and a visible exhaustion in his eyes. "Rebecca," he said, shaking my hand. "Your brother told me you're a family law attorney. I'm going to be blunt, everything you think you know about this system is wrong when you're on this side of it." I bristled. "I've handled dozens of custody cases. I know how this works." "You know how it works for women," he said quietly. "Let me show you how it works for men." He pulled out a file. "This is the playbook. It's the same in 80% of contested divorces where the mother wants sole custody. Step 1. File a restraining order with allegations of abuse, doesn't matter if it's true. Judges grant them automatically because the risk of denying a real victim is worse than the risk of falsely accusing an innocent man." I started to object, but he kept going. "Step 2. That restraining order becomes evidence of abuse in the custody hearing. Your Honor, there's already a finding that he's dangerous. Never mind that the finding was based on unchallenged allegations. Step 3. She gets temporary custody. Step 4. Temporary becomes permanent because courts don't want to disrupt the children's routine. Step 5. He gets every other weekend if he's lucky, plus child support calculated on his full salary despite now needing a second home for visitation." "That's cynical," I said. But my hands were shaking because I'd seen variations of this dozens of times. I'd just always been on the other side, assuming the allegations were true. "Your brother's wife has a good lawyer," David continued. "She's already filed for all marital assets to remain with her for the children's stability. She's requesting full custody with supervised visitation. She's asking for child support plus alimony plus her attorney's fees paid by Michael." "On what grounds?" I demanded. "Michael was the primary caregiver. He has an equal right to his kids." David gave me a sad smile. "Does he? Name me one presumption in family court that favors fathers." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. "Exactly," David said. "The system assumes mothers are better parents by default. We have to prove otherwise. Meanwhile, she just has to allege he's dangerous. Who do you think the judge believes?" That night, I went through my own case files. I looked at every custody battle I'd won for female clients. In how many had I presented evidence that actually proved abuse versus allegations the father couldn't disprove? The answer made me sick. The temporary custody hearing was 3 weeks later. I sat in the gallery, confident that once the judge heard Michael's side, this would be resolved. My brother was a devoted father. His kids adored him. Truth would prevail. Jennifer took the stand first. She was poised, tearful at the right moments, completely convincing. "He controlled everything," she testified. "What I wore, where I went, who I talked to. He isolated me from my friends. He'd explode in rage over tiny things." I was terrified. I almost didn't recognize the person she was describing. My gentle brother who cried at Pixar movies? Who'd never raised his voice? Her lawyer projected text messages. "You can see here where he's tracking her location, demanding to know where she is." The texts read, "Hey, are you still at the office? Want me to save you dinner, and meeting running late? Let me know when you're heading home so I can time the kids' bedtime." Normal spousal communication, twisted into sinister surveillance. "He used the children as weapons," Jennifer continued. "He'd turn them against me. Tell them I didn't love them because of my work travel." The evidence? Michael had told Emma, who was crying before a school event, "Mommy wishes she could be here, but her work is really important. She loves you so much." Trying to comfort his daughter, reframed as parental alienation. Then came Jennifer's friend, Melissa, who'd never liked Michael. "Jennifer confided in me for years about his abuse. She was afraid to leave." "Did you ever witness this abuse?" David asked on cross-examination. "I didn't need to witness it. I believed her." Michael took the stand. He was nervous, stumbling over words, defensive. Everything he said sounded weak next to Jennifer's polished testimony. Did you track your wife's location? Her attorney demanded. We have Life 360 for safety. Both of us. For emergencies. Yes or no, did you track her location? Technically yes, but. Thank you. Did you tell the children their mother didn't love them? No. I was trying to help Emma understand. Yes or no answers, please. He was being destroyed, and I watched it happen. The judge, a woman I'd appeared before many times, ruled for temporary sole custody to Jennifer. Michael would get supervised visitation, 2 hours on Saturdays, at his expense. He was ordered to move out permanently, pay temporary support of $4,000 monthly, and cover Jennifer's attorney's fees of $15,000. The court must prioritize the safety and stability of the children, the judge intoned. Until these allegations are fully investigated, a cautious approach is warranted. My brother walked out of that courtroom a ghost. He'd just lost his children based on allegations he had no meaningful chance to refute. I started attending Michael's supervised visits. I needed to see this for myself. The supervision facility was depressing, a converted office building with cheap toys and a woman named Patricia who observed every interaction through a window, taking notes. Michael paid $60 per hour for this privilege. Emma was 7, Tyler was 5. They ran to Michael the first visit, confused about why Daddy wasn't home anymore. Mommy says you were mean to her, Emma said. She cries a lot now. She says it's because of you. I watched my brother's face crumble. Daddy loves Mommy very much, and Daddy loves you. Sometimes grown-ups have problems, but it's not your fault. Mommy says we might get a new daddy soon. Someone who's nicer. Michael looked like he'd been stabbed. Jennifer was already introducing the kids to her new boyfriend, something technically against the custody order, but who was going to enforce it? Tyler asked, Daddy, why do you live in an apartment now? Mommy says you left us. 2 hours. That's all he got. 2 hours on Saturday to be a father to children he'd raised from birth. Then Patricia would say time's up and he'd watch his kids leave, crying and confused. The supervised visitation report Patricia filed said, Father appeared emotionally unstable and struggled to redirect children's questions about the separation. Recommend continued supervision. Struggling to answer why he'd been torn from his children's lives was now evidence he shouldn't be in their lives. The temporary orders were just the beginning. While waiting for the final trial, scheduled 8 months out because the court calendar was packed, Michael was hemorrhaging money. $4,000 monthly in temporary support. $2,400 for his apartment. $960 monthly for supervised visitation, 4 visits at $60 per hour. $8,500 retainer for David, already burned through. Another $12,000 for a custody evaluator Jennifer's lawyer demanded, costs split equally. His take-home pay was about $6,800 monthly. After support and apartment, he had $400 left. He couldn't afford to keep his legal representation and pay for supervised visits. He stopped seeing his kids because he couldn't afford it. Jennifer's lawyer immediately filed a motion. Father has abandoned his children and shown no interest in visitation. This demonstrates his unfitness and supports mother's request for sole legal and physical custody. The system had made it financially impossible for him to see his kids, then used his absence as proof he was a bad father. I watched my brother stop eating to save money. He lost 30 pounds in 3 months. He borrowed money from our parents, who took out a second mortgage to help. It still wasn't enough. Meanwhile, Jennifer lived in the house Michael had paid for, drove the car he'd bought, slept with her new boyfriend in the bed they'd shared, and told the kids Daddy didn't love them enough to visit. 6 months into the divorce, Michael stopped answering calls. I drove to his apartment and used the spare key. He was on the floor of his empty living room. Empty pill bottles next to him. Divorce papers spread around him like confetti. He was still breathing, barely. I called 911. At the hospital, after they'd pumped his stomach, I sat next to his bed and cried harder than I'd cried since childhood. My brilliant, kind, loving brother had tried to kill himself because the system I'd devoted my career to had decided he was worthless. When he woke up, his first words were, "I'm sorry. I just wanted it to stop. I can't beat her. She's taking everything. The court believes every lie. I've lost my kids. What's the point?" A nurse who'd seen it all before whispered to me, "Third divorced dad this month. It's an epidemic nobody talks about." I went home and did something I'd never done in my career. I researched male suicide rates and divorce. Men are 3.5 times more likely to kill themselves than women. During and after divorce, that rate increases eightfold. 80% of divorced fathers report depression. Many specifically cite family court trauma. I'd spent 10 years in family law and never once considered that the system might be destroying innocent men. I'd dismissed men's rights advocates as bitter misogynists. I'd assumed every accused man was guilty. I'd been so wrong it had nearly killed my brother. Michael couldn't afford to go to trial. He couldn't afford to keep fighting. 8 months of legal warfare had drained him financially, emotionally, and psychologically. David negotiated a settlement. Jennifer got primary custody. Michael got standard visitation, every other weekend, 1 evening per week, alternating holidays. He'd pay $2,800 monthly in child support plus $1,500 monthly spousal support for 4 years. She kept the house, the savings, both cars. He got his retirement account, which he'd have to drain to pay remaining legal fees, and his clothes. "This is the best we can do," David told him. "If we go to trial, you could lose even this. The system isn't designed for you to win." Michael signed the papers with shaking hands. 15 years of marriage, 2 children he'd devoted his life to, a home he'd worked overtime to afford, all gone. His reward for being a devoted father was becoming a visitor in his children's lives. The restraining order was dismissed quietly, without apology. No acknowledgement that he'd been falsely accused. No consequences for Jennifer. Just, the order is no longer necessary. She'd gotten everything she wanted. He was left with nothing but debt and trauma. I quit my job 6 months after Michael's settlement. I couldn't keep doing what I was doing, not after seeing what the system really was. I started researching everything I'd ignored for a decade. The statistics were horrifying. 70% of divorces are initiated by women. In cases where women initiate, they're awarded custody 83% of the time. Men pay 97% of alimony despite making up only 50% of higher earners. False allegations of abuse in custody battles occur in an estimated 30 to 40% of cases. Less than 2% face any consequences for lying. The incentive structure is clear: accuse him of anything, face no downside, gain enormous tactical advantage. Men lose their children, their homes, their financial stability, and often their will to live, and we call it justice. I started talking to other men who'd been through divorce court. Their stories were all variations of Michael's: good fathers destroyed by a system that presumed they were unnecessary at best, dangerous at worst. I interviewed men who hadn't seen their kids in years because they couldn't afford the legal fees to fight mothers who'd moved across the country. Men who paid support for children they weren't allowed to see. Men who'd been arrested for falling behind on payments after losing jobs, trapped in debtors' prisons we pretend don't exist. And I started understanding why good men are terrified of marriage. Why would a man take the risk? If it doesn't work out, and 50% don't, he faces an 80% chance of losing his children, a near certainty of losing most of his assets, and a good probability of paying support to his ex-wife while she lives in his house with her new boyfriend. He becomes an ATM machine and a weekend babysitter. That's what the system offers him. So men are walking away. Marriage rates have collapsed. Birth rates are at historic lows. Young men are increasingly saying, "Not worth the risk." And I finally understood, they're right. I'm 38 now. I've started a non-profit defending fathers in custody battles. We operate on sliding scale fees because the men who need us most can't afford traditional lawyers. Michael is doing better, better meaning he's no longer suicidal. He has a relationship with his kids, though Emma barely talks to him and Tyler calls Jennifer's boyfriend dad half the time. He'll never get back what was taken from him. Jennifer remarried last year. Her new husband is wealthy. She filed to reduce Michael's visitation further because the children are bonding with their new family unit. The system she weaponized once, she'll weaponize again. I think about all the cases I won in my old career. How many innocent fathers did I help destroy? How many men lost their children because I was good at my job and believed every allegation without question? I can't undo that damage. But I can fight for the next man, and the next, and the next. If you're a man considering marriage, I won't lie to you, the risk is real. The system is broken. You could do everything right and still lose everything. But I'll also tell you this, not all women weaponize the system. Real partnerships exist. Good mothers exist who believe fathers matter. The system needs to change. We need equal parenting presumptions. We need consequences for false allegations. We need to stop treating fathers as optional accessories to childhood. Until then, I understand completely why good men stay single. I watched the system destroy the best man I know. My brother's story isn't unique. It's terrifyingly common. And until more people see what I saw, nothing will change. Have you or someone you know been through family court? Share your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, subscribe for more uncomfortable truths about systems we're afraid to question.